Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Ariel Property Advisors, Customers Bank, Capital One Bank, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Castamatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merengoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends. It's called New Jersey. There are towns that there's major development taking place. You know, one of them is Jersey City, there's Harrison, there's Bayonne, there's other markets. So today I have assembled three individuals who really know what's going on in these communities. My guests, they include Adam Altman, who's a principal at KABR, Jeff Persky, who's also a principal, but at KRE, and last but not least, Phillip Gesue, who is the Chief Strategic Officer at Strategic Capital. So how many years have you been developing in Jersey City?
We first went into Jersey City around 1999, and we acquired some property, and we were about to get started with an office building at our Grove Street location when 9/11 occurred, and we had to rethink it and reposition it.
So what happened? You didn't build an office building, you built residential.
We ended up building residential. We were sort of in a flux. We didn't know what to do because of 9/11. And I was sitting around with Murray, and Gene Shankman was still with us at the time. And we were pretty confused and concerned. So I happened to be driving with my wife in a car one day, and she said to me, "Why don't you guys build residential?" And that's how, when we decided to build residential, it was her idea. So we ended up building a residential
Now,
building.
I hope you gave her an equity piece in the deal, because
She got more than me.
that's how you develop residential on the site that you were going to build an office building?
We had an 800,000 square foot office building approved. And we actually had a deal with Credit Suisse. I was on my way into New York one day, and they were bought out, or they merged with somebody.
Right, the Credit Suisse became CS First Boston.
Correct.
Right,
so when that deal occurred, they backed out of our deal. We were working on a letter of intent.
When you opened in maybe 2006, what were the rents for rental apartments in Jersey City at that time?
Probably around $26, $27.
And today?
Today, that building is closer to $48, $49.
How many years are you guys in Jersey City?
Well, as a firm, we've been developing there for probably 7, 8 years, but my partners Ken Pasternak has been there for many, many decades.
Yeah, but he was there when Jersey City was a trading company.
That's correct.
At night, no,
Yes.
when he was trader.
Yeah, he started at night and then employed a bunch of people there. But he grew up, his career grew up in those markets from the early 80s.
He grew up in Fleischmann's, let's remember that.
True.
Ken was there for years when Jersey City was becoming the back office, which is what you were planning originally on your property over there.
Exactly.
What have you been doing in Jersey City over the years?
We've built high-rise residential to good success. We have built up a very strong and robust land bank of probably almost 3,000 units in differing neighborhoods from downtown to Grove Street to Journal Square. And Jersey City is a phenomenally located, good community that there's still a lot of upside to build there.
Here's the question for all three of you. Jersey City has a great transportation with the path. There's no question. The biggest problem is the difficulty to sometimes get on the train to get to the next train because there's so many people coming in and out of that community. How do you take care of that problem?
It's an issue, and I know we've spoken to Path because we've had a lot of interaction with them, and they have upgraded their signalization. That has helped the problem a little bit, but they're sort of limited by platform size, and that's not so easy to correct. So there is a limitation, and I think they're also limited by the height of the tunnel, which they can't go to a double-decker train like you can do in other areas. So it's an issue that they're dealing with, but it's definitely an issue.
Phillip, why did your company go to Jersey City? I mean, KRE has been around for 40 or 50 years. Your company, Adam, with everything, maybe 15 years if you add Kenny and everything else. But how did Strategic, which is part of the China Construction Company, come to make a decision to go to Jersey City?
So we actually came after 9/11 as well. So our parent company was situated in the World Trade Center, and fortunately we didn't lose anybody, and most of the executives were living in New Jersey at the time. And we got an office in Newport Tower, one of the earlier office buildings before. And people have been there ever since. And so most of the executives commute from the suburbs, and people feel comfortable in that market, and so it was a natural place for us to move to.
We were talking about Journal Square, we were talking about other neighborhoods, but you're in Newport. You know the story about how Newport was created.
Right, with Sam.
Right. Sam Lefrak was building, he was in Battery Park City. He had problems with political people at that time, and he wanted to throw the keys away where he built the first building, and he's out there looking over there, and he says, that's where I want to be. And I mean, it was nothing. It was destitute land over there with swamps, correct?
Railroad tracks.
Railroad tracks and dredging. And now Newport is what? In your mind, what's the nature?
It's like Battery Park City, but in Jersey City. It's getting very built up. They're in the last few phases in the northern part. It's getting ready to be almost connected to Hoboken. And it has excellent transportation. You can use the Hoboken station, you can use Newport. There's a lot of ferries that go to the city. And a lot of young people who are coming from other places in the country that don't necessarily feel comfortable in Manhattan or an urban environment feel very comfortable in Newport. And a lot of young people can afford it because the rents are cheaper than the city. So what's happened in Newport is they've gone from being a family kind of a neighborhood like Battery Park City was originally, to a neighborhood where a lot of young, affluent and intelligent college students and younger people from the city live in. And retail is improving in that neighborhood. There are people who are choosing to call it home, and it's becoming very international. It's a big Indian population, a big Chinese, East Asian population, Americans, it's very international.
You're building a condominium over there as opposed to the rental projects.
Because everybody else is building rentals, so.
Right. He's building a condo. I understand why. Part of it was part of the land agreement when you bought it from the Lefraks that you couldn't build a rental property. Why haven't you built condos or you in Jersey City neighborhood?
Well, I think the rental market has been supportive of building rental product. And through today, although that might be changing as the interest rates continue to rise, the interest rate environment has been conducive to building rental projects.
Yeah, but people like the ownership situation. What's happening today in Long Island City is interesting, that where it was all rental, and now Long Island City has approximately 1,900 units of condos under construction.
Well, generationally, rental seems to be a really strong option for the younger demographic. I think Phil's condo project will be successful because there's not a lot of condo inventory being built, unlike in New York City. So if someone does want to buy and own something, there is not a lot of really high quality new product to choose from. And as Jeff can attest, right now rental product is being very quickly leased up.
I think for us, it's more of a risk factor. If we build a high-rise 500-unit building, it's a little easier to move the rentals. It's a pretty enormous risk when you have to sell 500 units. So I don't think we've been reluctant to take that type of a risk. And with the rentals, it's a generational thing where we can pass it on and we hold on to the property.
How important was the light rail for Jersey City's development?
I think it's become more important. I think it took a few years to catch on, but I think now it's become pretty integral to the success of Jersey City. We built in Liberty Harbor, and that is, you're about 5 blocks from the path, and there's a light rail stop right by our doorstep, and that light rail is very crowded. I'm very pleasantly pleased with the transition of people just walking over to the path versus getting on the light rail. Ridership has picked up substantially, and it's enabled people to go into farther away places, like we're in Bayonne and things like that, where the light rail will connect you.
Now, how far are you from transportation in Newport for your location?
We're two blocks from the path.
Two
We're
blocks
very close, yeah. But what I agree with everything they're saying about the light rail. It's changed in the last 24 months. And it's a value-oriented market, and I think that people are seeing that the downtown is not expensive now, but it's ticking up, and I think that people come to Jersey City to try to find better and better value, and that pushes them out further, and it's a great opportunity.
Many years ago, when I did one of my early shows, I had the Lefracks and a number of people who were in Jersey City, and their biggest problem at that time was, even though they owned the property for next to nothing, was the schools. And they had to they built their own schools in some of the communities. How are the schools today in Jersey City?
I think the schools are an evolving story. They have gotten better, and there's room for them to get better still. There are a number of charter and specialized schools that are very well regarded, but I think the city has acknowledged that that's an area that needs continued attention.
Yeah. I think in one of our buildings, we built a building which we put the boys club into over at 18 Park in Liberty Harbor, and the boys club opened up a STEM charter school from 9th to 12th grade. And if you enroll, I should say, in that school, you go to 9th and 10th grade in the boys club facility, and then 11th and 12th, you're actually working in the hospital, the Jersey City Hospital, which is connected by light rail. And those are kind of the efforts that I believe are going on. I think there's also been another building approved down on Montgomery Street, which part of the tax abatement required the builder. I forget, it might be Matt Calley. I'm not sure who's building it.
I think it is.
But they have to build a school over there also. So there are schools that are significantly improving, and there's some that are still challenged.
Now, all of a sudden, you're in the hospitality business? I mean, because one of the factors that Jersey City and Hoboken literally did not have much hotel at all. So
one of the, you always look for supply-constrained markets to build into, and by the Grove Street path station, which is really probably one of the most vibrant parts of downtown Jersey City in terms of density, food, entertainment options. There was a hole for a cool and hip hotel, and we're building a Hilton Canopy branded hotel. And
how many rooms?
We're going to be about 220 rooms, and I think there's a big hole in the market to address for that kind of product.
You've never ventured into...
We're not in the hospitality business.
You know, as somebody would go to the different asset classes, the office market is getting better in Jersey City. I mean, you know, it's still a lower cost alternative than being in Manhattan.
It's about half. About half.
Significantly less expensive. Are there opportunities in the industrial market in Jersey City?
I think there are. We've struggled to find them. We would love to find industrial opportunities in New Jersey. Based on the location, we're doing industrial in other areas of the state, and the rents have doubled in the last 2 years. And I think locationally, if there is that area by the Liberty Science Center, and that is zoned for industrial, and I know we had a piece of property over there which we ended up selling to Exeter, and I think they've subsequently sold it to someone else, and we were going to build a 90,000 square foot building, but by the time we got around to approving it, Exeter came in and made us an offer we couldn't refuse. So the values are rising significantly, but finding the land, that's the challenge.
What's happening in Harrison? You know, it's good transportation directly across from Newark, which we're not talking about. How do you look at Harrison today as opportunities?
I think Harrison's great. Okay, it's a small market. It's not a large market. If you look at it from above, it's very constrained. There aren't that many properties, but it's right on the path. And we were very close to starting a building over there, and we had an environmental issue that we decided not to go forward with. But we were very bullish on the rents, and we were very bullish on the product. And I know Iron State's done very well there, and the Russos have done well there. And I think, I don't know, are you involved in the super project?
No, we're not involved in any projects now. We've had a number of discussions in Harrison. I think we feel similarly that it's a constrained market where there's a lot of opportunity if you buy the right piece of land and you can deal with some of the issues that might come with it.
Right, but the rents are going to be lower than Jersey City.
The costs are lower, the rents are lower, but that's what it is. That's what's attracting that community there. You know,
but you also have good transportation.
Correct.
Because it's such a small community, and the path is in the center of the community. So in Jersey City, as you get further from the path, you know, transportation gets tougher. And in Harrison, pretty much everything has path connection.
Right, so you might find people, couples, families, one of them works in Jersey City or Manhattan, and the other one works somewhere else in New Jersey, and this way they don't have to drive through kind of all the density and traffic.
Now, the only question that I have with regard to that is what I brought up with Jersey City and schools. Harrison probably has a similar problem, that they don't have enough schools because it hasn't been that much residential market. It was more of an industrial market on the Harrison market.
There's probably truth to that, and I don't have the answer for that. And I don't know if families are settling there. We were going to build rental projects, so I don't know if it would be the younger millennials.
The rental projects that I remember from Harrison, I was analyzing it about 6 months ago, are all near the train.
Correct.
Okay, the ones that have been built are close by. They're within 2 to 5 blocks away. The true transit-oriented development, not that really high of a building, mixed use, you know, small retail downstairs and so on. You know, another area that we talk about, and what's your thoughts? I mean, you guys have a lot of money to invest, and you know, you're investing in Yonkers where you own a building and you're building another one. Where else in New Jersey are you looking at?
We've looked in Harrison too. I love Harrison. I think it's, you know, it was never really a town, and it's almost turning into a neighborhood at this point. You know, there were just a few scattered buildings, and I think as it turns into a town and you have more diversity of uses, it'll be an interesting place to be. And we see people moving where there are marginal decreases in the cost of rent. So we see small decreases in rent, getting a lot of extra demand. And I've toured a lot of the projects in Harrison, and I think it's a lot of millennials are going out there for the value. And so we like all of these developing markets in and around Jersey, and we see a lot of people continuing to move for them. There's a lot of supply, which is scary, but we see a lot of demand taking up that supply. So,
What about Bayonne, which you're in?
We like Bayonne.
Bayonne is not that close to New York City. It's not that far,
No,
but it's further than Jersey City and Harrison.
but I think I agree with Philip. It's a price situation where if you follow the path and you started on the waterfront and then you went to Grove and then you went out to Journal Square and then you went out to Harrison, each stop is slightly lower cost basis to rent. And I think it's the same with Bayonne. Bayonne, we're going to be building garden-style apartments. So the rents are going to be significantly lower than we're going to be building in Jersey City in our high-rise. They won't be as amenitized. It's beautiful housing with good transportation, and we're, I say, a block or two from the light rail stop.
Where are the people who are moving into these developments in Harrison, Jersey City, Bayonne coming from? Are they people leaving New York City? Are they people leaving, central New Jersey?
You're getting a lot of people from New Jersey who are moving to what they consider transit-oriented developments where they have access to both internal and external amenities. So a lot of the people are coming from New Jersey. A lot of the people are coming from within Jersey City. There's a really robust and successful Southeast Asian community in Jersey City, and generationally they're becoming very well educated, well employed, and they want to find places to live that are newer and more amenitized. And then you also have people coming over from New York City as downtown and the West Side yards continue to build up. The costs of those will continue to drive people to the cost option of Jersey City, both residentially and in terms of office.
As I mentioned in the green room, all of these cities and towns that we're talking about are opportunity zone under the tax law. What it is an opportunity zone, the benefits to develop in an opportunity zone in these markets. Adam, Jeff?
To me, it's a tax advantage. The regulations are not fully written yet, but my understanding is if you take money from a prior investment,
Right, a real estate investment or a long-term capital gain, a stock.
or stocks, bonds,
Right.
you can reinvest that into it doesn't have to be a
Could be
building. It could
right,
be,
it could be a business.
It could be a business, could be a restaurant in an opportunity zone. And if you hold it for, I think it's for a certain amount of years, you get a 5% reduction.
Right.
And then after another so many years,
7
you get
years, I think it's
a 10%.
15% reduction, and then 10 years, there are no
Right.
cap.
After 10 years.
It's a postponement of your capital
Yes,
gains
exactly.
over a couple of years. The biggest, and it works, I believe it's up to 80% of the area median income to qualify that certain people can do developments in there.
Right. We're still trying to wrap our arms around it.
It's complex. There's a lot of moving parts to it. I'm getting white papers from different law firms and accounting firms constantly with updates, and it's still complex. But at the end of the day, I think it will release a lot of capital into these areas that have been designated opportunity zones, and that has two benefits. It benefits the developers because it could reduce the cost of capital, but it also can benefit, and this is the real point of it, these areas, because these areas that have been designated opportunity zones were hopefully designated for a good reason, which is that employment and that economic activity will spur additional, be a multiplier to growth.
In the same vein, what effect do you believe the tax law had on the sale of residential condos and housing in New Jersey?
I think it's had a detrimental effect. And I'm not just saying Jersey City. I think throughout the states, I live in Princeton, And there's certain areas of Princeton that I drive through now. There's a couple of high-end areas where there's 15 houses on the street, 13 are for sale. And I know it's all because of the tax, the property taxes. When I speak to my friends in other towns, it's similar. The high-end homes that are carrying a major price tag for taxes are all impacted, and prices are falling.
On your development that you're building in the condos, is there a tax abatement on some of the apartments?
No, there's not. People pay full taxes, and but we're not really seeing a. You know, it's hard to tell because you know we weren't selling in Jersey City before, and so you know it's been too short of a time to really tell what the tax impact is. But I think that we're a small enough, niche enough project that we see people buying there because they want to own and they believe in the market and they believe in long-term capital gains on their investment, and you know they want to raise families. So.
And who's buying right now? I mean,
you know, it's a little bit of everybody. I mean, you have New Yorkers who are coming here because it's half the price in New York. You have Asians who want to raise kids in the market, and they understand the condominium world, South Asians and East Asians. You have Americans who believe in Jersey City as an investment. People see it growing. They see the rents going up year after year. And I think that people feel comfortable when you have a growing community that it's a good condo investment.
And I think a good illustration of somebody who's invested in Jersey City for close to 20 years is KRE. Correct. And there's no question that the appreciation has been there. There's been a lot of things going on. And I'd like to thank Adam,
thank you,
Jeff, and Phillip, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.